Welcome to Echoes of Grandma. Like and subscribe this channel for more hidden stories of awakening, forbidden love, late life miracles, and the quiet rebellions that change everything. Daniel's hands were steady on the wrench, but his mind had been racing for weeks. It started on a Tuesday morning in early spring, the kind of Jacksonville day where the humidity already clung like regret. He was behind the counter at the small auto parts store 2 blocks from the bakery, sorting spark plugs, when she walked past the window for the third time that month. Same time, 8:47 a.m., same navy cardigan draped over thin shoulders, same slow, careful steps that said she was carrying more than the paper bag of sourdough. He didn't know her name then. He only knew she looked like someone who had forgotten how to be looked at. Daniel was 34, divorced for 2 years, no kids, no real ties beyond the rent and the toolbox in his truck. Women his age came and went, quick laughs, quicker goodbyes. But this woman, this quiet older woman with silver hair pinned neatly and eyes that never quite lifted from the sidewalk, lodged somewhere under his ribs like a splinter he couldn't ignore. He started going to the bakery on Tuesdays. Not every Tuesday at first. He told himself it was coincidence, that he needed coffee anyway. But after the fourth time he saw her order the same plain roll and black coffee, pay with exact change, and sit alone at the corner table staring out the window without drinking, he admitted it to himself. He was watching her on purpose. He never approached. He sat 3 tables away, cap pulled low, pretending to scroll his phone. He noticed details the way a man who fixes things notices cracks, the way her fingers trembled slightly when she tore the roll, the way she smoothed the paper napkin flat before folding it again, the way her shoulders rose and fell in small, defeated sighs when the bell above the door rang and someone younger walked in laughing. He asked Mrs. Patricia behind the counter one morning when the place was empty. "That lady who comes Tuesdays, the one with the navy sweater, you know her?" Mrs. Patricia leaned on the register, eyes narrowing with the practiced gossip of small neighborhoods. "Helen Morrison, lives over on Riverside Drive, married to some construction supply manager, Robert, I think. Nice enough man, but cold. She's been coming here alone for years, never smiles, barely talks. Poor thing looks like she's fading right in front of us." Daniel paid for his coffee and left without another word, but the name settled inside him like wet cement. Helen. He couldn't explain it, not even to himself. It wasn't lust, at least not the simple kind. It was something hungrier and sadder. He kept seeing her sitting there, invisible in plain sight, and something in him wanted to reach through the glass and say, "You're still here. You're still real." 3 months later, the opportunity arrived. He'd overheard Mrs. Patricia mention that Helen had called a plumber twice for a dripping shower, and the second guy never finished the job. Daniel knew the first guy, sloppy work, took the deposit and ghosted. He told Mrs. Patricia he'd do it for half price if she passed his number along. She did. When Helen opened the door that Tuesday morning, Daniel felt the air change. She was smaller up close, thinner, eyes the color of storm water, wary but polite. "You're Daniel?" "Yes, ma'am. Here about the shower." She stepped aside. He walked past her and caught the faint scent of lavender soap and something older, like linen kept too long in a drawer. His heart hammered so hard he was sure she could hear it. He knelt under the sink, tools spread, asking questions he already knew the answers to. She hovered in the doorway, arms crossed, not quite sure what to do with her hands. He stole glances, the soft line of her neck when she turned her head, the way her wedding ring looked too heavy on her finger. When he said, "Mrs. Helen, I'm going to have to work on it down below, too," he hadn't planned the double meaning. It slipped out. But when he looked up and saw her freeze, pupils widening, breath catching, he understood 2 things instantly. She heard it, and she felt it. That single second stretched like warm taffy. He saw color rise in her cheeks, saw her throat move as she swallowed, saw the moment her body remembered it was still a body. He felt like a thief who'd just found the safe unlocked. He finished the job. She paid him. Their fingers brushed. Electricity. real, undeniable. He left, but he left something behind on purpose, the socket wrench tucked behind the toilet tank where it wouldn't be obvious for a day or two. The next morning, he rang the bell again. When she opened the door, watering can in hand, surprise flickered across her face, then something softer. Relief? Curiosity? He couldn't tell yet. "Mrs. Helen," he said quietly, "can I ask you something?" She nodded, wary. "Why do you look so nervous when someone pays attention to you?" Her breath hitched. She turned away. "I wasn't nervous." "You were. I saw it." Silence stretched thin and dangerous. "I also saw something else," he continued. "You're alone, even when you're not." That was the moment the crack appeared. Her eyes filled. She didn't cry, not yet, but the dam trembled. He didn't touch her, not then. He simply stayed until she could breathe again, then left with the wrench and the promise that if she ever needed anything, she could call. She called 3 days later, not with the plumbing problem, with silence on the line for almost 10 seconds before she whispered, "Robert's gone until Sunday." He was there in 30 minutes. They didn't rush to the bedroom. They sat on the couch, far apart at first. She asked why he came back. He told her the truth. The bakery Tuesdays, the questions to Mrs. Patricia, the deliberate way he'd made himself available. He expected anger. Instead, she cried. Not from betrayal, from being seen. When he finally kissed her, it was slow, reverent, like opening something sealed for decades. She kissed back like someone remembering how. When she climbed into his lap, legs straddling his hips, hands clutching his shoulders, he felt like he was holding something fragile and explosive at the same time. They made love on the couch, then the floor, then, when the sun dipped low, her bed. The bed she'd shared with Robert for 42 years. Daniel didn't care. He wanted every inch of her reclaimed. Afterward, lying tangled in sheets that smelled of them both, he said the words he hadn't planned. "Leave him." She laughed, shaky. "Daniel!" "I mean it. Come with me." She didn't answer, but she didn't send him away either. Weeks passed in stolen hours, secret texts, guilt that burned hotter than desire. Then the pregnancy test. 2 lines. Impossible. Miraculous. Terrifying. When she told him in the kitchen, voice barely above a whisper, he froze. Then he dropped to his knees in front of her, pressed his forehead to her stomach, and cried like a boy who'd just been given the one thing he never dared ask for. They lost that baby at 10 weeks. The grief was a living thing that moved into the apartment with them. Helen stopped eating, stopped talking. Daniel sat on the floor beside the bed for hours, holding her hand, whispering that it wasn't her fault, that her body had done something extraordinary even if it couldn't finish. 6 months later, the nausea returned. Another test, another ultrasound, another heartbeat. This time, Daniel didn't let her go to the clinic alone. He sat in the waiting room, palms sweating, leg bouncing like a teenager before a game. When she came out crying, happy crying, he pulled her into his arms so hard the nurse smiled. They married quietly at City Hall 3 weeks later. No family, no fanfare, just them, a courthouse clerk, and rings they'd picked out together the day before. The pregnancy held. Against every statistic, every warning, every raised eyebrow from doctors who'd never seen anything like it, Helen carried to term. Their daughter, Lila, was born on a humid August morning when Helen was 69 years old. 6 pounds, 2 ounces, dark hair, eyes the exact color of her mother's stormwater gaze. Daniel wept openly in the delivery room, holding both of them like they might vanish if he blinked. Years later, when Lila was old enough to understand stories, Helen would sit her on the porch swing and tell her the beginning, not the sanitized version, but the real one. "I was invisible once. A man saw me anyway. He didn't fix me. He just refused to let me stay broken." Lila would lean her head on Helen's shoulder. Was he scared? Terrified, Helen would answer, smiling at Daniel across the yard where he was fixing the gate for the third time that summer. But he showed up anyway. And in the quiet spaces between the words, Daniel would look over, meet her eyes, and remember the bakery window, the navy cardigan, the woman who looked like she was disappearing. He never regretted chasing her. Not for one single day.